What's going on, everybody? I'm Sage, uh, and I wanted to give just a quick overview of the Mythic Plus weekend we had last weekend from the Guardian Druid standpoint, because I did test that in Mythic Plus as well. Ultimately, there are a couple changes that have happened over the course of this week for Guardian Druids, so I want to hit those, and then we can kind of talk about how Guardian's faring in Mythic Plus. So the first one of those is that we did get a new a tier set. So our tier set has changed up, and now it's our 2 set is using Mangle with Gore, also deals 30% of the damage dealt to nearby enemies. Damage reduced beyond 5 targets. It also increases your damage done and reduces damage you take by 5% for 6 seconds. This one right here, using Mangle with Gore to do splash damage, is phenomenal because one of the main things that Bear has issues with, just in their general overall toolkit compared to other tanks, is snap aggro, right? Being able to go into a pack and be able to kind of burst around outside of Thrash and Inkar. Because Thrash on a normal pack is going to have its CDs, so you're only going to press it the once and then you're going to swipe spam to try to get threat on everything. And this allows you to, once you get a Gore proc, that you can go in there and kind of get a little bit more, turning one of your single target abilities into a splash kind of snap aggro scenario. Obviously, it's reliant on that proc, which is still kind of, meh. To be honest, I wish it was something that's a little more deterministic, so you could do it at the beginning of every pull. However, if you do get a Gore proc, then you can just hold on to it and jump into the next pack. It doesn't last for a super long time, so you do want to make sure that you're moving on and noticing when you do get the Gore proc. But it is definitely something that Guardian Druids needed. So being able to have a little bit more AOE snap aggro is phenomenal. And then the fourth set is Gore has a 5% Gore has a 5% increased chance to trigger using Mangle with Gore heals you for 18x amount over the next couple seconds. So this is all just going off of that Gore proc, which is good. In my opinion, because you're going to get Gore. When you look at our talents, Gore is definitely going to be one of the main things you select. Up here, it's a passive talent where Thrash, Swipe, Moonfire, and Maul have a 15% chance to reset the cooldown on Mangle and to cause it to generate additional 4 rage. I don't think there was ever a build where you would skip this, mainly because you needed to get to the other side of the tree, to be honest. But also, it's just kind of been one of those core functionalities. Mangle gives you one of the most rage generations throughout the spec now, so you were pretty much going to take it. So it was a net gain. I think it's definitely better than what we previously had. Getting a little bit of DR, healing, and a little bit of AoE from a single target ability, which is something that, like I said, Guardian kind of needed. The other big change that they did was that they nerfed Guardian, and I'm not sure why they nerfed Guardian, but our Ursox Fury was 75% of the damage dealt by Thrash and Maul would grant you an absorption shield. Now it's only 30%. And I'm not sure what numbers they're looking at where they're like, okay, yeah, this needed to get nerfed. I would agree that it is super strong talent, especially putting this talent comparative to anything else is going to be a hard take to like pick the other two. I've mentioned that inside my other videos. But Ursox Fury being nerfed from 75% to 30%, I don't think it changes what we're going to take. It just nerfs the capability of what your Sox Fury can, which your Sox Fury was the main reason that like your in-car state made you practically invincible to all forms of damage because it would have to eat through a massive shield in order to actually damage you. And now your shield's just not going to be as massive, but it's still going to be a 30% of all damage from Thrash. And since you have Circle and Life and Death as well, your Thrash and your Thrash ticks are going to be, happening and reoccurring even faster, which is just going to give you more of a shield. So we could have actually gotten way bigger shields than in Shadowlands because you didn't typically have Circle Life and Death giving you those ticks. Um, but we're definitely losing a good amount of survivability with them nerfing this as hard as they did. So those are two big changes. Good stuff happening on our tier set side, and then bad stuff happening on our Ursox Fury legendary talent. Um, Past that, in Mythic Plus Bear is always hurting in two areas, especially if they don't have something like Borrow Powered or tier sets like in Shadowlands right now. Our tier set is helping out with us. But that's Threat and Snap Aggro, which are the same issue pretty much, and Single Target. Bear has always struggled in these two departments because it is a damage over time tank, and then it doesn't have any abilities that do snap damage, so like instant damage to an entire pack. Because Thrash is itself like it does do initial damage, and its initial damage does do a decent amount, but it's not its remaining ability comes from its bleed that it goes ticks across. It's not a big burst of damage. It's going to give you a whole bunch of like increased threat over if somebody's pressing all their cooldowns, if one of your DPS is pressing all their cooldowns and just going ham. So those are the two things that I think Bear has always struggled with that they haven't found a proper solution with is snap aggro and single target damage. They have put it into the build to try to make it so that like you can take some things that would increase your single target slightly. However, it makes you take points away from what you're good at to try to be still bad at something else. We're still like you can take every single target talent inside this entire tree and you will still be bad at single target. It will not make you better at single target. Not better enough, you know. It there's no amount of damage you can get from your talents that's going to make you super competitive on the single target front with any other tank currently. So yes, you can take those, but it's just going to make where you are strong weaker. And where we are strong is AoE. We are stronger in continuous AoE as well as making sure that we get, you know, our survivability during those AoE scenarios. We're doing decent. Um, are we stronger than some of the other tanks? Not really. Guardian, I would say, is probably on the lower spectrum of all the tanks currently because it focuses so much on just being good at AoE, not being good at single target. It doesn't have snap aggro where other ones do have snap aggro. And then like our healing is pretty decent because we have our absorption shield on ourselves. And then we get all of our arcane damage, which is a ton. Moonfire does a ton of damage. So we're getting like that healing and that absorption shield for ourselves, but then you have people that can heal the group, and we don't heal the group. So we're losing out on utility as far as our healing, and we're definitely not healing as much as a Blood Death Knight or something like that. So we're not sustaining as much. Even putting the 2 points into Frenzy Regeneration, where we reduce the Frenzy Regeneration cooldown by 30%, our Frenzy Regeneration is still pretty long. We're 30 seconds for every single charge, so you can get one off every half a minute. So you just have to and we don't have anything like our 4-set bark skin that's going to drastically reduce that cooldown unless we're using in-car, right? But this up here is the build that I went with. I went with all of the for the Mythic Plus testing. I went with all of the Moonfire damage and then all of the Thrash damage. There was a couple people on the last video I made about Guardian that were talking about, you know, taking away the Ursoc's guidance and just going with Untamed Savagery. And I was testing it. My main thing is that when we start getting into higher Mythic Plus, it was like DOS. DOS was phenomenal for Guardian Druid because you could do some massive pulls, but it all was reliant on having Inkar. And if you're able to get into a dungeon like that, where you could just do these massive pulls, but it's reliant on you having Inkar so that you can get your spam thrashes out and get that absorption shield, then this could still very well be something we play. As far as just consistent throughput, consistent absorption, and healing, as well as just like overall damage, I would say this one right here is probably this is going to probably be the way to go. Like I said, I know that there's a couple people that are trying to play with the builds over here, and then they're losing out on some of our defensiveness going down this way, which is not a ton of defensiveness, but it is some. But grabbing abilities like this right here, I just think are never going to be the play for Maul to increase it. Like I said, it's going to increase it slightly, just not enough to make it worthwhile, in my opinion. And we'll have to see from there. But not too much else has happened with Guardian. We're getting pretty close to pre-patch, and it's very unlikely that they're going to do a massive change up with this because Guardian does just work. You know, it can 100% tank. It can tank at any competitive, not I wouldn't say, it can take at any level of key. I would say currently, it's that as far as like how far it will be able to go into like the high 20s to 30s or so, as some other tanks will be. It might struggle there, but we'll have to wait and see, right? A lot of that's determined on the gear that we get, how trinkets function with different types of tanks, and so on and so forth. But when I was testing, Guardian felt fine. The only issues was that snap aggro, which, like I said, we got a little bit of help from the new tier set, which wasn't active during the Mythic Plus weekend. So the next Mythic Plus weekend, hopefully, like that shows up a little bit more. And then single target damage, which doesn't really get helped around with any of the stuff that we got. Um, and then we got a hit to our survivability when our survivability is already pretty much lower than most of the tanks. So we will see. Currently, Guardian still needs a little love, and I hope that they're looking at some of the tuning. If they're not going to swap around talents and make them worthwhile or give us more points in the tree, something, then if this is what we're stuck with, then Guardian will function as a tank, but it won't be it definitely won't be the meta tank, or in the top meta of tanks. So if you have any comments or concerns, hit me down in the comments and let me know what your opinions are. If you guys have tried anything that kind of counteracts what I was saying about snap aggro and single target, let me know. And, past that, if you like the content, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. All right, bye-bye.